Have you ever left a conversation with your boss and thought, I should have said that differently, or you didn't get all the information you needed? Strong communication with leaders does not happen by accident. So in this video, I want to teach you how to have strategic conversations, how to use executive speak to your benefit, and how to truly build rapport so that your voice will be heard and you will get the answers you need. The word communication comes from the Latin word communis, meaning to build rapport, to see what you have in common with other people, which actually will lead to the rapport and the connection. And then you move from there. I love speaking on communication. And I'm going to get into strategies, but I want to tell you why I love it so much. And I want to encourage you to really learn and expand your breadth about what you know on communication. The reason why I love it is because the more I am in the workplace, the more I have been in the workplace, I see the impact communication has on us, on, again, our relationships, our ability to get work done. And so it's either going to impact us in a positive way or a negative way. When we're not effective in our communications, that's going to impact us. The better we are at communicating, and now today you layer on all the tools we have for communication, you also have to choose the right tool. But I want to talk about that human element of communication, and whether you're communicating via, virtually on camera, whether you're communicating in person, this is applicable to every situation. And so, first of all, really important is we have to learn to initiate communication. Now, I want you to think about in terms of your partnership and the relationship you have with the executive or leader you support. Again, it does not matter what level you are at within the organization. Everyone has somebody above them, unless you're the CEO, but they have to report to the board of directors usually. So I don't care if you're a vice president, you've got a relationship with your leader. If you are a director, you have a relationship. If you're support staff, you have a relationship. So that's what we're focusing on. So basically what naturally happens, communication just goes back and forth, right? But I want to talk with you and focus on right now for a moment about purposeful, intentional communication. And that means this is where you have to initiate conversation, not wait for information to be fed to you, but you're actually going to take action. You're going to put energy and effort into this, but there are many benefits. So when I look at purposeful communication, I have a few statements that I'm going to share, and you're going to say, yeah, that's true. Okay, well, let me make the connection for you. So for one example is, whatever your role is, you and your leader, let's say with my marketing manager, for example, and me, right? They depend on me so they can be successful. I depend on them to be successful. We depend on each other to achieve our results. So therefore, to really help my marketing manager achieve results, she initiates conversation with me so that she could get into my world. If she's only looking at the information that's handed to her, that's surface. But if we actually sit and we talk and we get into the conversation and she gets inside what I call getting in my head, because I have all this stuff swirling around, and she gets context around the project, she is able to do a better job. If she does a better job, I'm going to be happier, the company is going to be happy, we're going to be more successful. So do you see that it's not automatic? Like, you want to be intentional. You want to have purposeful communication with the person you work with. Like I said, your leader, your director. As I said, purposeful communication does not happen in daily operations unless an individual is intentional. Unless you actually stop and say you want to have this conversation, you initiate the conversation. Also, though, it's not just about talk. You have to have valuable conversation, not just chitter chatter. That's not what I'm talking about here. Another one is sometimes you have to negotiate your workload with your leader. When you're feeling overwhelmed, instead of sitting there stressing about it or feeling like, oh, I don't dare say anything because they'll think I'm not a productive employee, they can't help you if you don't let them know where you are. And it's not that you're moaning about it. You're just saying, here's what I have going on. Here is my list. Here are the deadlines I have. What can we like push back? What can we hold off? So it's really important you communicate with the person to whom, who you directly report to. This is about your partnership, building a strong partnership in the workplace. Also, electronic communications is not always the best tool. It really is not, and it's based on the situation. So again, if you saw my other module about time and energy management, I talked about this a little bit. But the idea being is it's not always the best method. Like, again, we have to talk these things through together. You can use your apps, you can have them, but just remember they should not replace human connection and human conversation. Because the other thing that I love, when we sit as a group in my office, when my team, we all get together, again, I meet with one individual and we start talking, we're able to clarify information or clarify expectations. We can reestablish deadlines. We can get more context and get the bigger picture of what is going on. Remember, you're only maybe getting one piece of the puzzle, but there are many other pieces here. So the more pieces of the puzzle you have to the story, or the puzzle, I should say, better you're going to be able to do your job. And believe me, it really reduces the stress and you're going to feel more in control. So initiate. Like I said, don't sit there like a bump on a log. Get up out of your seat and, and initiate the communication. Or again, set up a virtual meeting with someone and talk to each other. And it's really, really important too in the day of AI and where we are with technology, we are losing what I call human moments. And I've talked about that for a long time, but human moments, technology is only going to do so much for us. Human moments are where we really start to use our critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, strategic planning. You do not want to lose those skills with your brain. You really do not. And that's where you show your human differentiator, which is job security, folks, okay? Getting better information. So we want to not just get information, from our leaders, but we want to get better information. So this is about, there was a book out years and years ago, Question Before the Question, and it said the reason why we don't get the information we want is we're asking the wrong question. Think about that for a moment. We want better information than thinking about the question you're going to ask to get the information you need. Now, an easy question to say that I love is, can you give me more context around that? Let's say you've been, tasked with setting up a meeting, a big meeting, and it's really important. And yeah, they've given you the who, the what, the where, the when. Here's a few talking points, agenda. Can you give me more context? That's the word, that's the key word. I know executives will have huddles with their direct reports or their assistants, and they'll be sitting in that meeting, and going through that list. But it really, like I said, it's about getting the context around it. That's so important. Let's see, what else could I share with you? Also inserting yourself into your executive's life, because you might be saying, my executive's way too busy. I can't tell you how many times I hear that, and I know they are. That's why you have to insert yourself. Don't sit on the sideline. You need to get in, and how do you do that? And maybe that's requesting that time with them. Maybe a way to insert, I know something I used to do with some of my executives is we would go out to lunch. It was a way to get them out of the office. Hey, let's go have a lunch. And you are talking business, but it also gives you a chance to just be a little more comfortable, a little more casual. You're in a different space, right? And you have their full attention. So that's an example how to do that. What else could I tell you? When you're doing that, really getting the better information, demonstrate your intelligence. Meaning when they're giving you more information, like listen, absorb it. What's the trigger? What's the domino effect of that? Use your intelligence. That can lead to further questioning or clarification. The other advice I have are the huddles. Now, we have daily huddles, but you don't have to have daily huddles. I think the key piece I want to do here is to give you an analogy of, if you think about a football team, Football's serious business. Yeah, it's a sport, but it's big business. And so when you think about those football players, right, what do? They huddle before they make a play. So it's not a silly thing at all. If you have your leader, you should have a huddle maybe 2 or 3 times a week, okay, where you just sit and you clarify priorities, because they shift constantly throughout the day. And what you thought was the A priority last night, well, your executive was working last night on other things or got up at 4 o'clock this morning, everything shifted, but you come in and you're doing this. Well, that's not the A priority anymore. Quick huddle. They don't have to take a lot of time. And I've done this for years, and I've been on both sides of the desk, the employee, and I am, like, again, the owner, the leader, the business, the CEO. And they're very beneficial to have your huddles. Just, again, clarify so you're not wasting time. I love executive speak. Yes, executives have their own type of language. And even if you're an executive watching this, I think we can all learn, because something that I absolutely love is to really listen to executives all over in different industries. They could be small business owners. They could be executives of large corporations. I listen to the words they use. I listen to how they handle situations. And over the years, I have learned so much, and I apply that, and I want to use those words. But the other piece too is when we can speak their language, we're going to build a partnership. They're going to be open to us because we're speaking their language. And now you're showing your credibility, and you're building that rapport, which is important. So let me tell you some quick tips here. There are some insights into leader languages and executives speak. Use straightforward communication. Executives don't have time. So, be straightforward. Don't beat around the bush. You don't need to tell them the whole background story, okay? Get to the point. I have coached hundreds of executives, and believe me, that's what they want. Be precise and concise. So that's where you have to stop and think before you speak to them. Be organized. Be ready. Let them know exactly what you want, what they need. They're good with that. They want that. Speak with intelligence, always. Thought and clarity. Like I said, organize and prepare. Now, here are the words and phrases I've heard over the years, repeatedly by executives. So what are some of the words they love? And I love them because I've grown to love them. Of course, analyzed. Okay, so this is where an investment. If you want financial support for something, to attend a conference or some kind of training, you might say, well, I analyzed the program and I analyzed the speakers, and here are the benefits and here are the outcomes, and here's going to be the return on our investment. They talk about flawless execution. I can't tell you how many talk about that. Meaning, well, what does that mean? It means for all of us to strive to execute as flawlessly as possible, so we don't waste time or waste our energy or have to do something over again. Forecasting, I'm sure you've heard that word. Some of the other ones, they talk about win-win a lot. Scalability, have you heard that word? Okay, how are we going to scale this project? How are we going to scale bringing in that revenue? Or how are we going to scale even if it's an assistant and their executive? Mitigate, I love that word, mitigate risk. That's where you're coming in with problems, or you're anticipating a problem, and you talk about, I've thought about how we could mitigate the risk of this happening. So what I want to encourage you to do is, how do you learn this? Listen to the leaders, the executives, the management, the higher ups in your organization. You can learn so much. So really listen. Then practice using the words that they use in your own world, but also when you're speaking with that executive and that leader. Read books. Executives read is another good one. And you can research and understand the meanings of context. So I want to encourage you on your own to continue to pursue this, no matter what level you are at within your organization. It is going to change things for you and your relationships, and you're going to build and bring that stronger partnership together. These strategies are part of our Star Achievement series by Office Dynamics. This program has been taught in Fortune 500 companies and attended by tens of thousands of office professionals. The program is available virtually, or we can bring that program on site for organizations who want to grow together. If you found this information valuable, I encourage you to watch the rest of the videos. They build on each other. This is a strategic training program, and you will learn so many tools that you can apply in today's workplace. They are real, they are proven techniques, and they are actual techniques that people have lived and seen the benefits from. Thank you for watching.